You know what? I've just realized that I had my mic muted all the time on the OBS. Fucking fuck my life. And I was in this epic mode of describing this whole situation. Like, damn it. All right, I'll make it shorter. This is about my students from fall 2015, professional students, and yeah, it definitely needs Andrew. I'm gonna say that. It definitely needs Andrew. Um, so the reason I'm doing this streams is just not only we did some of those professional mentorships, and we had like really good progress there. I was really happy with what I was seeing, but my and our idea here at Learn Squared is we want to push our students to the pinnacle of what they can do, and one of the ways to do it is just to make more time for them. Obviously, I cannot make personally time for every single student to invite every single student here on Twitch because that would be a clusterfuck having 100 people on the go to meetings, I believe. And also, it would be a marathon, which, by the way, could be an interesting idea if I get enough supplies of coffee. Um, but generally speaking, yeah, so I want to keep doing those. I'm not sure if there's going to be a next one next week, but if not, then it's going to be either a following week or soon after. So we just keep doing those. Whoever wants to show up, then that's great. Just be here and show up, and it's gonna be fun. Um, all right. So the way, oh yeah, of course, always. And John is looking at. I'm looking at chat as well, but John is moderating it, so he will have a better idea what's going on and all that. So he'll mark down all the questions. So if I miss something, I'll try to answer if I see something that needs to be answered right away. But otherwise, I'll just focus on the students here. I have a bunch of really cool people with me that are trying really hard, and I really appreciate that. So I appreciate for everyone who came to this stream, and let's get going. Um, so some of the work that I've got is related to the stream or to the class itself. Um, but some of it isn't. It doesn't matter. It's fine. I want to just spend time with the students. So I got maybe I'll start with actually I'm gonna start with Frederick because that's most related to what we do here. And last week we've been talking about his mask. He did his homework. I believe that was for last lesson, right? Am I correct, Frederick? And we did some suggestions on like what to do with the mask. And here's a cool thing. We've been talking about animation, and this is what I've got here. Yeah, damn dude, awesome. It's a good start. I like it. So you can see that there's some cool stuff here. Um, yeah, that's probably a bad idea. Unless you have like a render farm. No, yeah, I mean, so when I was working when I worked for film, and I know a few guys that would do this kind of animations, and and they would just supply this kind of preview. You don't need to do more, really. I mean, if you supply a illustration, you'll clearly see that what is it all about. So it doesn't have to be fully rendered. Like the fully rendered stuff would be only for if you would like do VFX, or like previs for VFX. So what are we learning today? Well, today we are reviewing students' work, and there is no specific direction towards specific learning. It's all related to some of it is related from what I saw. Some of it is related to the class itself, so it's a futuristic character design, and there were homework assignments from the course that I'm reviewing here. We had a lot of that last time. Today it's gonna be a little bit of that and a little bit of something else. So it's more of a like, yeah, as Ryan said, QA critiques of students' work and whatnot. So I like that. The only thing I've noticed for Derek is the mask itself, like the front, kind of slides up. It looks like it's like an error. Maybe what could happen if it's intentional, maybe what could happen is maybe you could delay the moment it goes up. Let me actually pause on that specific frame. Like right here, it slides up. So maybe it should close like right here, the top part here. And actually, hold on a second. John, can you give me a presenter? Because I don't think my students can see the work. They can watch it on the stream, but I don't think that there's there's a delay. Yeah. Do you guys see it right now? Q. Awesome. So like maybe around this frame, the top part, those two slides kind of slide in instead of just right here. Because what happens is they slide in and then go up immediately. So maybe if they slide in right here and close, and then slide up, and then the lower part closes, that'll be probably ideal, you know? So, and I mean, from here you can go as far as you want. Like you can add a little more smaller details that are animating or anything like that. You know, the more detail you add, or the detail in the movement, it's the better it's going to be as a overall effect. Yeah, from just the illustrative perspective. By the way, how long is your render time for this image? Because it's a lower res, right? Okay. Yeah, I would ask for like larger resolution, but I don't want to overkill because I know you have to have a good computer to enjoy really quick render times. Yeah. God damn it, Andrew, where are you? What about now? I'm sure they're gonna be they're gonna be uh, hear heard of right now. I fixed that problem. Sorry guys. I'm learning. I'm learning how to do that stuff. So
Get it?
yep. So that's fixed. Everyone can say hi, and we will know that everyone is heard. Okay, so you remember when we talked about maybe extending it a little bit?
On the bottom, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think like we possibly would benefit if we do that. Because what I started to notice is that the balance of how large the top feels versus the bottom could be probably fixed. And I'm also thinking maybe in a sort of like an aggressive way where the shapes that we're painting here are suggesting more of an aggressive approach. Because one
Yeah.
thing that can happen is if you just make the shapes here a little bit too soft or too how to put it, if the line, I'll use red color. If the line would be like this, it's going to, I mean, it can work, but I feel like if you break the line into something like that, So overall shape would be more like this. It becomes more of a aggressive shape, I guess.
Someone's asking, did you use this in 3ds Max or Fusion 360?
I guess that's a question for Frederick.
I basically made a base model in Maya and then detailed it in Fusion, like in the tutorial.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you did a good job, man. Like I remember where you started with it and how it looked in the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you just took it back and reworked, and that was a good call, man. Like it really, it's just like right now it's just finding a little bit of extra juice in it, if you will.
Yeah.
So
And it's only first model in Fusion, so next one will be better.
yeah, of course. Now what's great about it is like I hope what you do, like for instance, when you have this little piece right here, right? This little sort of like a cut in or whatever that is, you know, like a little cutout here. You should save those pieces separately. So you have like, for instance, you would have a piece. So I imagine it would be from the profile. It would look something like this, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you basically cut a surface. Like this is the surface you're cutting in, and this is your kit, right? Which is cutting in. So if you save it as a separate piece, then you can use it everywhere else. That's like one of the things that I'm basically using it for, and that way you can build a library of assets. And that's one of the things from the course itself. It's the idea that you start slow because it's like it's new software and it takes time to get into it and all of those things. And obviously you can paint it faster. Like this thing can be painted and done realistically faster, right? But the idea
Yeah.
is you can, when you build this, you then have assets to you work with. Like it's not only just an illustration anymore. You can actually um, render it from many angles to begin with, just as a singular piece, right? And also
Yeah.
you can use it later on. So imagine you have different different helmet you're working on, but you want to use some of those. You want to use some of those different cut-ins or surface details that you've created. You
Really
have
quick, Maciej.
yeah.
Uh, your volume on your voice is really low
Oh,
compared to
okay.
the students, so you have to turn that up. It's in levels, computer audio levels in OBS.
Um, Hold on. I think it's how about now? Is it better now? I'm just adjusting volume in the mic, but the levels I haven't touched the OBS levels to be honest. Like it should be.
For me, it's good.
Let me see. Audio. What if my face is closer to the microphone like this?
Yeah, that's better.
All right. I'll put the microphone right in my mouth and just oh. Joking. Jokes
That's much
aside.
better.
Yeah. So I'll have my face closer.
There we go.
Right. So yeah. So that's pretty much the idea. You build assets and God damn it. You build assets and you use those assets to create something else. This is how Vitali works. Like he has a
Yeah.
library of hundreds of thousands of assets because he's a robot and he creates millions of them every day. It's like an assembly line, I think.
Yeah.
I've met with Vitali a couple of times, and he has a perfect appearance of a human being, but I don't know. I think he's a robot, so I wouldn't be surprised.
Terminator.
Yeah, There's a little bit of that sort of like this metallic echoing in his voice. I don't know. There's something in it. But yeah. So looking at your design, it's like I would probably just only add those things here, like just more volume to the bottom. It feels like a little more full mask and more how to put it, uh, like heavier on the bottom, which balances the bottom and the top. Like right now, I feel the top of the head is a little bit too heavy, and because her chin is exposed, it's also make it feel like it's a little bit too small of a helmet. You know what I mean? Like it
Yeah,
feels
yeah,
a little like too small, but unbalanced. If you would make the whole helmet bigger, that wouldn't fix it. Maybe it would if you would change proportions in terms of like elongating it or whatnot. But I think the easiest fix is just to add that, fill that part of the mask. Maybe add those kind of wing-looking spiky shapes that are sticking out on the sides. I think
yeah,
that can add to a general feel to it. So
yeah. Looks much better. Yeah.
cool. All right, I'll go with whoever I have open here. So I will start with
Awesome.
Elias.
Thanks.
Yeah, no worries, dude. Any questions, always ask. I'm gonna try my best answering them. So, um, Elias, what's up, man?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Very good. Can see you like Vikings, the show.
I might. Just
So
might.
just sort of walk me through your image because it's not really related to a course itself. So,
Oh well, after doing your course, the first two
mm-hmm.
classes about that were more about designing the image in itself
Right.
as a whole, I felt like I needed a lot more practice with that.
Gotcha.
So I just told myself every week I'm going to do one of these. And no matter what. So I'm taking other classes, but I know that every week I have to at least create one image. And so, this week I got inspired by Vikings and Macbeth and some other cool
Yeah.
movies. And so I just, I decided to try and create something interesting.
Cool. Um, that's a good idea, by the way. Like that actually puts your what you've learned into practice. And that's something I encourage to do. I try to do it myself. That's one of the things I was doing with Art Habit. I really feel like shithead that I stopped almost, but then again I just kind of run out of like literally run out of time for because it's either me pushing a little more effort towards getting the best possible lessons or drawing on paper, and I just need to free up some time and working towards that. So I'll get back there. But what I've noticed personally is when you start something that you haven't worked on, or maybe it's not your strongest trait in art, right? So when you do it a lot, and then when you repeat the practice uh, constructively, then what happens is you get better and better and better and better, and eventually you get really good at it. For some it takes weeks, for others it takes years, but you know you'll get there if you just continuously do it, because every time you do a new picture you'll have a set of new challenges in front of yourself, and you will like, huh, like I don't know what to do here, or I don't know what to do there, and all of those things will be challenging. If did you have any specific challenge here when you were drawing this, like anything that was like how to what like you weren't sure or anything
Well,
like that?
yeah, a lot of them. For starters, I was kind of inspired by one of the shots from the movie Macbeth,
Mm-hmm.
where they're just like surrounded by fire and everything's very red, very foggy. And it was a great shot, and I wanted to kind of recreate that, you know.
Is that the
But
new trailer, right? The Macbeth trailer.
yeah, yeah, that was awesome. Uh, but I also wanted to, implement a surrounding, an environment, and mix the two of them. And I kind of had a hard time because everything was like in the shot was very saturated. You couldn't barely see anything. So I was trying to figure out how to implement that type of atmosphere, but with an environment behind, at
Yeah, that's
least.
the shot.
Yeah, basically that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty good, isn't it?
It's great, man.
Yeah, I like the trailer too. So,
I, I can't wait for the movie to come out on Blu-ray so I can just screen cap it, like from start to finish.
so one thing that you're doing, which is nice, and it's something I believe I wasn't talking about in the class, but something I could mention right now, is the idea of taking, movie screenshots. So let's say you take this one and you try to study it, and you study the color, the composition, the intricacies of value changes and everything, and you just kind of keep studying and studying and studying and painting it, and you do as many of those as possible. What this allows you to do generally is uh, you learn a little more about composition because you start to notice like what kind of composition cinematographers uh, take. Like what kind of shots they compose, how characters are placed on the screen. Uh, and when you investigate a little more, like when you start maybe reading about composition in cinematography, you realize that there are specific rules to that composition and why characters are placed in a certain way, and all those things they matter, especially in film. And a great cinematography, even though if you don't understand cinematography, you will still be able to see a great cinematography versus shitty cinematography, right? When you watch Private Ryan, you're like, fuck yeah, that movie looks amazing, right? But if you watch, I don't know, what kind of shitty movie, any of the uh, what's that guy, that comedian that really sucks in comedy and makes millions of movies? I don't remember.
Adam Sandler.
Um, Adam
Yeah,
Sandler.
there we go. Watch any of his movies and you're like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's a big difference between great cinematography and okay cinematography. And basically, there are rules to like line and spacing and I don't know, contrast or lack of contrast in terms of value or hues. All those things combined together create a great shot. And also because it's a moving picture, there's also a movement, like the line movement. I know great cinematographers, for instance, or in storyboards, they actually create line script where everything you see is not really like normally when you look at um, a storyboard, right? You see those little drawings of little people and maybe some small locations, but basically it's just like a storyboard of how the shot's gonna look like. Some of the great cinematographers also do just lines. Like there's only gonna be, say, a diagonal line or maybe a line that kind of follows a specific shape. And what the
Hmm.
information is, the line informs in which direction your eye is supposed to go. So, for instance, horizontal line that goes across the image could be your eyes supposed to travel from left to right and then back from right to left, right? So when you have a dialogue between two people and you place them in two opposite corners of the screen, as conversation is going and shots are changing, and each character is in a different part of the screen, your eyes will go back and forth and back and forth, and the further away the characters are, the more intense the conversation can be, right? So like the more of your eye movement is there, the more intense it is for you, and it feels more intense in general. So yeah, so that's one of the reasons. Sort of, I kind of went off script and kind of far away with it, but that's one of the reasons why looking into film frames and studying film frames could be helpful. and I like the idea. I guess what I would do in your image specifically is so you have a very hot light right here, and
Mhm.
I would assume that you could probably think about adding a little bit of rim light. Uh, Not too much, just to get a little bit of that connection. Um,
Mhm.
I'm not sure how much. Like the best idea when I work with things like cloth, right, and adding rim light to the cloth. One thing I don't want you to do is make this, because that's not gonna
Yeah.
look realistic, right? We all know that this is not how it's gonna look unless the light is directly behind the character. Then what you could do is like when you zoom in really close, you could just maybe suggest that it's like hairs of the fabric, and then it
Mhm.
makes more sense if it's like that. But generally, I want to avoid that. I think where the light direction is coming from and how the material itself would reflect, and then depending on what kind of material it is, you'll actually understand how much reflection there would be. I'm not looking at references right now. I'm just kind of imagining what the reflection could be like, and I believe it will be just very subtle. Um, Very subtle highlights here on like those edges that are directed right to the light.
Somebody asked Elias, do you have an art station that you could share with the viewers,
Um, Not
or a place or
currently.
website?
Yeah, no, unless you go on my Facebook, but no, I don't really have anything. I was thinking of starting one after, I come up with a few pieces, after I feel like I've arrived to a certain level of quality, I'll start posting stuff online
Do it.
So one like
eventually.
I'm also looking at opportunities. So for instance, like I'm putting a little bit of highlight here, but what I also notice is that maybe the ear itself could have a little bit of that um, subsurface scattering. Normally like when you have an ear and it's against the light, it'll be just like a little brighter, especially where the skin is not too thick or the
Yeah,
ear itself is not too thick.
yeah, the little red ear.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Maciej,
Yeah.
and somebody asked, what would you say are some of the movies with the best cinematography you know of?
Um.
Said I already know you love Kubrick.
Oh
Kubrick.
yeah. That's pretty obvious, right? 2001 is first that comes to my mind. Shining. Any Kubrick movie is fucking amazing. Like there is no question about it. Great cinematography. I always look at movies from the past, mostly because there are just so many classics out there. I guess Apocalypse Now is another
Yeah.
amazing example. You know. Um, Funny enough, the documentary about Apocalypse Now is even better than the film, which is The Heart of Darkness. I really encourage everyone who likes Coppola movies just watch Heart of Darkness just to realize how crazy that movie was generally. Because the documentary is just showing how crazy people working in that movie were, and it's just like fuck. There's a lot of examples. Like even Ghost in the Shell, right, has great shots, great cinematography. Obviously an anime, but there's something really great about that film, And there's many more. I don't have like Kubrick always comes to my mind in the first place, always,
If
And yeah,
I'd also say sorry. Fincher is great.
yeah. I mean Fincher, of
Uh,
course.
and also every Roger Deakins movie, basically.
Yeah.
Just like those are to
Um,
study day and night.
I'm really bad with names. What was the cinematographer? He's a Polish guy. He did cinematography for Black Hawk Down and Saving Private Ryan. I always
Oh,
forget his name, but look him up. like just even IMDb. I always forget his name. I'm really bad at names. But look him up and you will see what I mean. He's the Black Hawk Down cinematography is great. Even though the movie is so-so, you know, the cinematography is amazing. The shots from the helicopters and everything, it's just fucking rad.
Is it Slawomir Idziak?
God damn it, I don't remember. I don't want to waste time looking up names on the stream. I don't think it's necessary. So just look him up. Just Google it. You'll enjoy his work. I mean, if you liked, watch Black Hawk Down. Mute it. Don't listen to sounds. Yeah, Janusz Kaminski. There you go. Someone actually posted it on chat. Yeah, his cinematography is great. Or watch Saving Private Ryan and just mute the film. If you mute the film and don't listen to any sounds, and it's still interesting, you know it's great cinematography. So, anyways, Elias. So basically, it's more of the integration of the character with the scene. I guess it's where the light is coming from. Like the Fresnel light on his skin itself. So there would be a little bit of that, a little bit of like a reflection of the environment on the skin itself. It's kind of tricky because it's just like it's a different type of lighting, you know. And then I guess my biggest issue with this image is there is a lot of details in the background that is not really necessary. And if you want to have that, like if you think about, God damn it, don't crush. All right, there we go. If you think about, what I was supposed to say, I'm always when I start painting, I'm forgetting what I was about to say. Oh, okay. So when you have a fog and smoke and all those things combined, right? What I think about is how I can present it with the minimal amount of details, and I really try to avoid those details where I can. Basically, the reason is right now the smoke itself feels very uniform in the way it looks. And I think you could possibly avoid that by just simplifying some of the background. Because everything that is in the background should be very uniform. I feel lacking details, and then the closer you get to the foreground, the more understanding you should be getting of what you see, right? I guess that would be my approach, where I would try to make like a clear separation between background and foreground. Like just simplify those things as much as you can. Don't fall in a trap where your background detail, even though it's washed out, is competing with the foreground. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I'll definitely try to get to that.
And then, like if you want to add smoke, I'm obviously probably using the wrong brushes for this, but that's fine. So basically I would just try to, like here for instance, this is a good example. Like I would avoid this range of value that you have here. I would just simplify it to a singular value that would come, let's say, from this color, and then just populate the whole area right here.
Somebody asked Maciej, do you use your 3D workflow for Showtime as well?
I do. There you go. All the myth is busted. I don't draw this. No, I don't like it anymore. Showtime is kind of in the limbo right now. It's kind of sad for me, but one thing I've realized over time is I can only focus on 3 things at once, and one of those things have to pay bills, and then and that only leaves me with two other things. Another one is a family, so it only leaves me with one thing to do, and it's either learn squared or showtime. Now, the great thing about learn squared is that I want this eventually to replace the first thing, the one that actually pays bills. So we'll see how it goes. Um, Generally speaking, Showtime is using the same or very similar workflows that I explain in this class, so
Cool.
um, and yeah, so Elias just basically like this whole background could be
Hmm.
a little more washed out like this. So there's a more clear separation. I guess you could also uh, put a little bit of that foggy feel to the foreground as well. I will actually put it on the lighten layer, and we could erase a little bit to make it, oops, something like
Nice.
this.
Yeah, I was trying to find a way to mix him, like just add a more dust like effect to him, but I felt like he was just he was just looking flat, and I was worried he would look too flat.
Um, the idea is you can when you start working with the way Fresnel works, right?
Hmm.
So the angle in which you start to see reflections. Every single material has Fresnel and
Hmm.
or has reflections, right? Every single material in the world has a reflectivity. Um, I guess physicists could argue that there are materials that never reflect light, but
Hmm.
I'm not a physicist, so I'm just assuming everything that you see with your eyes have some kind of reflectivity to it. Now, if it's a mirror, it's obviously 100% reflectivity with no glossiness. It's just perfect reflection. If it's a pair of jeans, it will have a very minimal reflection, but the reflection will still be there. So an environment will affect the way it looks. Now, Fresnel affects the way reflections appear in your eyes. So a highly reflective objects will have really high Fresnel, which means the higher the Fresnel, the more of the object is actually reflecting. The lower the Fresnel, the it's based on the angle of in which you see the object or in which you look at the object. So great example is water, right? I believe water
Hmm.
has 1.3 or 1.4 index of reflection. I would have to look it up, but basically when you look straight down water, it's transparent, right? There is almost
Hmm.
zero reflectivity. Um, but the more you start to look towards the horizon, the more reflective it becomes, and eventually it is almost like mirror. It's reflecting 100%. Now, the blurriness of reflections on water, all those things are basically because water is disturbed, and your angle of view changes with the wave disturbances, right? So that's making the reflections look very distorted. And obviously, the further away you are from those waves, the more frequent they become. And as more frequent they become, the more blurry the reflection becomes. So that's why, like, when you have a moon and you look at the ocean, the moon will appear to have like this really long reflection that goes from almost the horizon all the way down to towards you, right? It's because the
Hmm.
waves are the angle in which your eyes are looking at the waves are constantly changing and eventually becoming more of a perpendicular in which you stop to see the reflection. So that's pretty much how it works. And when you think about skin, and when you think about your cloth, the cloth itself will have reflections as well. So you have to take that into consideration. And basically, it will allow you to get that result where it feels more three-dimensional, once you start counting in reflections, not just diffuse, because what you see right now in your character is diffuse.
Hmm.
Even this little change here where I just made this belt slightly brighter in this corner,
Yeah, it already makes it better.
yeah, already makes it more three-dimensional, if you will, so Yeah, so study more of those film frames. That's a good idea, and combining it what you've learned with from the class and kind of going with that idea of just just fucking doing it all the time. That's the best way to approach it. The more you work on this, the better. So
Thanks, man.
cool. Eric, walk me through. Walk me through your ideas.
Uh, well, I don't really. This was basically just an experiment to see if I could actually use a 3D program or model a building.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, basically when I was setting it up, I was having issues with trying to get any sort of angle that didn't suck. Like, so, um, I ended up with like a bank of rocks, and then eventually it kind of I had issues with the bank of rocks, so then I
Mm-hmm.
tried to do something with it, and then I ended up with a culvert, and yeah, it's basically just a giant rainbow-colored train wreck.
It's not that bad. Don't be too hard on yourself. There's some issues here, obviously, that can be fixed, but I wouldn't be like, oh my god, this is the worst image I've ever created. Oh my god.
No, definitely
I
not.
I
I
think
have much
uh
worse
I
ones.
think what has to happen here is you have to simplify. There's just too many things going on. And the easiest approach if there's too much going on, simplify, right?
Hmm.
There's something about simplicity that makes it look better. Um, I guess I guess everyone knows Eitan. I had him on Art Cafe recently.
Hmm.
Eitan joined Naughty Dog right after I did. He was a artist student, and what I liked about his progression and how he was growing with his work and everything is that he was in the stage of making everything complex and using a lot of those textured brushes and everything like that, but eventually over time he started looking into simplicity of things, and that's what made his work to be stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger, and eventually right now he's just fucking amazing, right, at it.
Hmm.
I think he was learning quite a lot from Shaddy as well. I mean, Shaddy is a great guy too. Shaddy's just become really businessman now, running a one pixel brush. I think he's doing more of a business work than painting. I'm gonna fucking kick his ass to paint a little more because he was really good at it. Um, but basically, simplification will fix the issue you're talking about. So what I'm doing here is, first of all, I'm just removing things that I don't feel are necessary to your image, right? So for me, the sewer thing, like I don't see a reason why it should be there, right? Okay, maybe if there's a specific story related to it that it just has to be there. Let's say if you're making this as an environment for a video game and you have a game designer that says it has to be a sewer exit because the player walks out of it. Okay, then fine. Then let's figure out how we can make it look good and how we can actually create an environment for which will be inspiring also for the level designers, because this is from let's say maybe as a layout for a video game that would be a okay thing to work with. Then you have to figure out different angles of the image to work with. But if we were just talking about strictly about illustration and composition, those are the changes I would do personally to make this image better. So one thing I want to do to start with is a separation of planes, and the first thing would be make it feel it's more three-dimensional, right? So when you start separating planes, that's exactly what's going to happen. So right now I'm just adding those rocks right here, and you can see that my background, or it's actually your background, is actually disappearing behind those rocks. You can actually make
Hmm.
them even slightly darker and maybe taller. So let's just like giving a hint that there is more depth to it. And I like this green reflection that you started adding. I feel like it just should reflect a little more of what this exactly is. Probably more of a
Okay.
darker green. That implies the water is really dirty. But it can also have, like those the things we've discussed about, the Fresnel. Maybe the reflection is maybe because the wave is bending and it's distorted. It's actually reflecting not only the stone, but also it's reflecting a little bit of sky. So you add that little separation, now you can understand, okay, this is water. And you have
Yeah.
that little slimy thing here. It could be, when it's starting to foam, when it's hitting the rocks. So you actually start to see uh, where the water ends and where the rocks start. And you can go further and further and further and refine, and maybe even you can go as far as how much of the rock we can see underwater and where it's going to start to blur, and when it's going to start to the underwater part start to disappear and give away to the reflection itself. And it's like you can go really far with it, but I'm just simplification for now. Just separate the planes, simplify it, maybe make the background here in a slightly brighter fashion like this. And you started to introduce a little bit of that soft shadow here. Like there's maybe some kind of object outside right here that's casting this shadow. So why not going with this even further and adding it here on the sand itself. So
Maciej, Mark Kent just joined up, and he also submitted some work too. So.
all right, cool.
Hi.
I also feel like this could be a little wider image as well. Like this. Okay. But you see where it's going, right?
Yeah, okay.
And maybe a little bit wider on this end as well. So just, oops.
Content aware fill or whatever, quickly.
I'm just gonna stretch it out like this. It's fine.
That works fine too.
Maybe this could be a little lower, Not too much though.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean generally just giving it more breathing space, so it's not all tight and everything. Like there's more distance to your image, there's more separation to specific, so you can say, okay, this is foreground, this is midground, this is background, you know? Like once you start to introduce that idea, that it will just make the image read much, much easier, I feel.
Okie dokie. Whenever, if I have multiple things in an image, like, do you have any examples of people who are really good at, say, juggling multiple things? Like, I understand, like, it's, like, Aiden Zana does really good work with, well, like, by simplifying.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any time, like, if I was dealing with, like you were saying, in, like, a video game, and I was dealing with level designers, and, we need to actually have an environment that has more than a hero object in it.
Yeah.
How would I, like, is there anyone I can look at who's really good at dealing with like, juggling lots of small focal points without, somebody who's really good at, like, balancing complex scenes?
First person that comes to my mind would be James Pake from Brainstorm School. Like he's like really good at building complex environments. He has a very specific style though, but he's like really good at the complexity of the environments. Even John Park is really great at it too. Like both those guys running the Brainstorm,
Brainstorm?
they're fucking amazing. amazing people and amazing artists. Who else? Like, I don't know. There's quite a bunch of guys. It's just like I would just have to really go through and figure out who else is there. Um, I guess I'll counter this with this idea. Start with simple, right? Because once you have a
Yeah.
clarity of and simplicity of the scene, it's much easier to start populating details because you will know exactly where to put those details.
Okay.
Like like for here, for instance, like we were talking about sewers, right? Like they could potentially fit here, and it's not
Hmm.
gonna be destroying the overall feel of the image, right? And also, what it suggests is like, let's say the requirement is that you go out from the sewers and then you have to sort of, let's say, go around and go back up, right? So your route goes right here. Let's say that's the idea. So now you're introducing like how cool it would be where you have to actually enter the water, the slimy water, and you wet the clothes of the characters and all that stuff. Like it's like maybe a thing to introduce. If it doesn't work and the idea is that it has to be like right here, then you put it in a corner like this, or maybe just dress it around so it's not distracting anymore. But the general idea is just to kind of remove yourself from this looks that it's just too. It feels like there's just too much going on, right? And some things feel
Yeah.
like maybe they're out of perspective, or there's too many colors, or too many things to focus on. Always find a focal point. For me, the focal point is this structure. Like your eye is supposed to go there, so everything else has to be diminished. Um, yeah, so I would just work that way, basically.
Okay. That's fair.
Cool.
I clearly can't handle that level of stuff, so
It
I
takes
better
it
go
takes
simple first.
time. Like seriously, it's just time and effort. And that's it. You know, time and effort. So
Okay. Thank you.
cool. If Mark can't added his work as well, he's gonna put him in the
Someone
folder.
asked. Someone asked, "Is this course for beginners?" I don't get it. If you could talk a little bit more about the course itself.
Oh, so I mean, we're talking about two different things here. So when it comes to a futuristic character design, I don't know if it's for the beginners, to be honest. I mean, if you are willing to put quite a lot of freaking time into it, then and a little bit of outside resources. Whoa, I can hear some sounds there. Um, if you are willing to put a lot of like effort and look into outside sources, then yeah, then it's doable. It's you can learn a lot of it. If you don't have much time, then there are better options, I guess. This is sort of more demanding in terms of how many technical aspects are included in there and software that needs to be learned. So, if you're just starting to draw or just starting to design, I would say no. But if you've already been doing it for a while, maybe you're not on the level that you feel like you're happy with your work, maybe then. Um, when it comes to environments, though, I think the new course is going to be way different than the first one. It's very throughout, and it's going to be challenging for pretty much anyone, whether you're just starting or you're already working. I well, I can see Eitan not willing to join the course because he's already fucking good. So I don't see why he would, or I don't know, Jamie Jones, for instance. Anyone who's way better than me, then I guess I should learn from them. But uh, the idea is, so for instance, my apprentice is going to be Genia. Genia has never drawn anything in her life. Like she's a great photographer, so she has a good understanding of, I guess, composition, color, all those things. But she's never drawn anything, and she has to do homework. So we'll see how that goes. But the course is designed for if you're never drawn in your life, you'll be able to draw with this course. It will require obviously more work to draw something really cool. Um, but generally speaking, you can start this course um, if you don't draw at all. If you already do work for, say, video games, the homework assignments are divided into how much time you're willing to put and effort, because the simplest task can be the most complex. And the way it's done, that if you, let's say, you finish the whole course, you can go back and then start doing the homework again and make it way more challenging. It's the homework assignments, for instance, are can take you anywhere between 45 minutes or an hour to 80 hours if you're a psycho. Like if you're like, gonna be the best concept artist on earth, I'm not gonna have any life at all, and just work on that, then yeah, it's totally doable. But yeah, anyways, Sergey. Is it you, Sergey?
Yeah, it's his mic.
All I hear
Sergey,
is like.
your mic is a little messed up.
Yeah, I cannot hear you talk. If you're trying
Yeah.
to talk, it's just noise. So you can type in chat. So
Yeah, use your typing. There we go.
yeah, no worries. So I have your. I guess this is your sketch and this environment and those sketches, right? Am I correct? Am I looking at the right thing? All right, cool. So it's gonna be more difficult because like obviously you cannot talk. You're Russian freak. You're probably trying to copy Vitaly, getting into that robo mode, just going overboard. Never mind. Sorry. But anyways, so walk me through like real quick. What are the issues or problems you run into when you were doing those? Because obviously it's not related to the character design course, but I want to hear like what do you feel about those, and what were the problems you had mostly, when drawing these? And in the meantime, maybe John can sing us a song.
I used to be a singer. I gave that career up a long time ago.
Yeah. Good. We have a little time, dude. Just keep typing. All right, let's do this. So it's not so everyone who's watching, he's not like, man, what the fuck? I'm just watching a screen that it's not moving and no one's talking. So let's maybe do something in the meantime, and if you have a specific things, just type it down, and John can distill it to the exact things. So I can see you've taken Jama's epic course, the Jama the Jama the Magician, the Jama of Oz, Jama the Gray. And I will tell you what I like about or which shots I like the most, and I feel are the strongest. Because obviously the technique that you're using here is completely different to what I do. Again, Jama is another example of an alien or a robot that is trying to take over the concept art world, and we just don't know. We're just believing he's a human, but he isn't. So just bear in mind. Just mark my words. So the most I like is this one. Oops, let me use a different brush and different color. Is this guy here, this guy here, this one, Mm, I feel like this one has potential, so I'm just gonna maybe make a face that is just slightly smiling, not completely smiley face. Um, the reason being is this is an interesting angle for maybe an action shot or something like that, but it's just lacking the fidelity of details that you have in other shots that I've marked. This one is, I like this one. It's an interesting use of a very simple composition. It's almost like it's not asymmetrical. It's more of a cross composition where everything feels very narrowed to a one point perspective. Your horizon line is here. Maybe I know a lot of artists, including myself, like to use the rule of third composition, which is if we just crop the image, you can see that you have those lines that are coming across, and then just like if you adjust your painting a little bit, you can see that it can become a rule of third real quick. So, oops, let's do that. And then what it would mean is just like maybe more buildings that are similar height to that upper line, the upper third. Oh, the flow is too low. It has to be 100. Otherwise, it's not painting the correctly.
Someone asks, what's the best way to study movie shots? Is it just painting them, or more like Anthony's approach, taught in painting with confidence?
Yeah, I think Anthony's approach is probably the best approach. Just don't just like copy just for the sake of copying. I don't think that's gonna work. You have to start to think about why this composition works that way. Like why this shot is really good, why it's interesting, right? The best idea is not only just to look at shots and paint them, but also there are many of like really good video blogs or like YouTube channels, which dissect um, films and film compositions, uh, and just kind of try to get a grasp of why this shot works, why it's interesting. There's a great book written by Bruce Block, Visual Story, and I highly recommend because it's actually about cinematography, even though it's not specifically talking about cinematography, or it's in the title, it's not about cinematography. A lot of things in the book relate to how cinematographers work. And the things I've talked about already about lines and motion and how your eyes look through this over the screen and whatnot. That's exactly it's coming directly from that book. I've read this book a couple of times and it's just amazing. This is the one right here, Visual Story. So get that. It's amazing. I highly recommend that book. I guess, John, if you can write it down and maybe post it up after the stream is finished, maybe in the YouTube description. So everyone who wants to, everyone who wants to watch it or read it can read it as well. So I'm just doing a real quick overpaints here, Sergey. Basically, just maybe adding a little bit more of those buildings and make it feel like it's much larger in scale as a city. But the idea is to get that feel of, oops, there we go. Like it's becoming much closer to that rule of thirds, There's some things about that rule that make the image feel like it's easier to read, or maybe it's more interesting to look at. So if it's not symmetrical, symmetry works in very specific situations, or like this cross compositions work in very specific situations. Generally, for landscape shots, I like to do. I just like to go with rule of thirds unless there's a specific reasons not to, because it's just pleasant to look at. You know, it just feels great when you look at it. You're off centering your eyes. Your eyes are not looking at the center of the image anymore, which makes the image more interesting. So I guess that would be my comments to your thumbnails. You also had question here. Um, so you said, yeah, so those are basically 3D code, but you also said it was straight 3D, and I thought it would be a good idea to start with a sketch and push it with this technique to the end. That what is about that work. I also bought Steve Messing's PSD and trying to apply what I understand. Okay, so are you trying to say that maybe you want to start with just sketch and kind of work in painting, or start with sketch just to get an idea and then work in 3D to get the composition? I'm just trying to decipher. Right, but do you want so you want to start with sketch? I get that, but do you want to continue just painting or you continue with 3D afterwards? Because those are like two different approaches. I'm gonna wait till you reply. um, yeah, so whatever. Yeah. All right, so when you do it with 3D, like you did here, you're gonna get results quick, like because those are pretty quick to do, right? From what I understand from lesson 1 of Jama's course, those are like really quick things to do. So if you just work that way, it's fine. That's probably better because you're gonna avoid thinking about lighting, thinking about. So for instance, when I look at this sketch right here, okay, you have a full control over what you want to do there, right? Because you're painting it. But the problem with painting generally is, as much as there's a lot of novelty about painting, there's also a lot of limitations to it. So basically, you have to be really excellent about painting with lighting. You have to be really excellent about composition in order to pull off the drawing and make it really, really freaking rad. Most of concept designers that I know that work in environment concept art, they have a great foundation in drawing. They can draw those things, but at a point where they feel like they want to improve their productivity, they go 3D, because 3D you just use HDRI or physically rendered sky. So you just change the time of day and it's gonna render exactly what it's supposed to render, like where it's noon or afternoon or the sunlight or sunrise or whatever. And you press render, it's done. Like all you have to do is just construct the city in 3D, and there are tools that make it extremely easy. Like the workflow that Jama is using is just insane. It's just like, what the fuck. And you can clearly see it with submissions from his class. It's just really good, you know. So yeah, I guess if that's your question, that would be my answer. Like don't limit yourself because like you want to do this or that. Maybe paint directly, only do paintings just to process your thinking of how you use textures and how you use perspective, how you are, you know, how you understand perspective, how you understand composition, all those things. Just for that, yes, paint, don't touch 3D. But if you're doing production work, yeah, just use whatever is faster and whatever brings the best results. I guess that's the best approach. So, okay, I'm gonna save this here. I did a little bit of overpaint here on your, not too much though, you know, just a little bit. So I'll save it so that John can populate it later on. And this is looking nice. I mean, I guess you could maybe bring a little bit more of the clarity. Like if I would say next step is just refining details and bringing more clarity to what you see. So you have like for instance those light textures here that comes from a photo. Maybe that photo itself could be a little bit higher res and maybe more thought out where the lights would appear and whatnot. But as a concept sketch, this is already good. It's a very classical from dark to bright, approach. Maybe what you could do differently is reverse the angle from which the sun is coming and try that as a challenge, because that's gonna be a totally different beast to work with when the light is behind the camera. So that would be my few cents here. All right, cool. Let's close it down. I also have Mark Kant. There we go. 'Cause he joined at the end and got those images. Oh, and Andre. Okay, before Mark is Andre. Andre,
Yeah, hello.
what's going on, dude? Walk me through.
Yeah, it's all fine, yeah. Okay, so I was trying to reapproach the first 2 weeks of the course and find out that, yeah, I need a lot more practice in 2D, so here is it, here is some landscape stuff, and I was trying to practice everything like lighting, color, composition, so everything gives me a little headache, so
Sorry. Hey, Mark, your mic is a little loud. I'm not sure if it's something
No,
we could
that's
fix.
Andre. Yeah, your
Oh, is it
voice is
Andre?
really loud. Maybe just
yeah,
just your face a little bit further away from the mic.
yeah, or other way around. How does it sound now?
A little better. I'm gonna do this. I just gonna decrease the volume from the OBS, and that should help. Can you try
Yeah.
talking?
Okay. Okay, I'm talking.
Yeah, that's better.
How about, yeah, okay.
All right, cool. So, yeah, dude, it's different. It's more challenging, of course. And again, it's as what we were talking before. It's a lot of practice that comes with it, So, I just gonna do a couple of changes to your image and explain you why I'm doing those. So, for instance, one thing is, I guess what we're trying to do is introduce the atmosphere.
Yeah. It's, yeah, not exactly right, it must, yeah, but anyway.
Right. So what I would say, maybe it's a different thing, but I understand, or my first reaction is that you're trying to introduce atmosphere. If you have a different idea, it's probably not working that well, because that's what my brain is telling me in the first place, and it's because we are spoiled to look at NASA images and other concepts that are out there, illustrations of sci-fi environments and whatnot, and we feel like, okay, this is what it is, right? And this is the main reason why I feel it that way. So I would remove it just for that sake, unless what was your idea behind it? Just sort of like I know, instead of just dismissing it, I know exactly what you meant.
No, it was like a happy accident, you can say, and I left it to decide later what would I do with it. So this hello wasn't a final thing. Yeah, so that's it.
Yeah, your volume was clipping, and also it was breaking out. Can you repeat?
So it was a happy accident, and I left it to decide later what to do with it, what to do
Okay.
with this effect. Yeah.
Right. So I would say is when a happy accident happens and you feel like, and it makes sense, like you clearly understand what it's doing, then yes, go for it. But if happy accident happens that there's something you like, but you're not sure, I would say keep it on a separate layer and don't introduce it to the image, because if you personally don't understand it, then granted anyone else will not, you know? And that's that was exactly my first reaction. I didn't understand why it's there. So my first guess was it's an atmosphere, which clearly it isn't. And because I know planetary atmosphere is so thin, you cannot see it. Like even Earth's atmosphere, you can only see it when you're like on the, you know, from this from space station you can see it, but space station is like really really close to Earth, right? And that's the reason you can see it. The layer is so thin, it's just like you will not see it from the far distance. It's just gonna be it's just gonna feel like a diffuse layer on the object itself, on the planet itself. So so that's one of the things that I've started to notice and I wanted to react to. Second thing is I guess it's like a large moon or a second planet here. I'll probably move it away or maybe move it closer here. I don't like how it's coinciding with the, you know, with the edge. It's almost like it's merging edges. It just feels weird, you know? I'd rather remove it either to be here and maybe even smaller, you know? Because then you understand, okay, this is like a moon here. Also, when you have clouds, what's going to happen? Clouds probably will overlay what you see here, you know? So I would kind of make a suggestion like this so that you understand that this is not just your planet here is way further away, you know? It doesn't feel like it's just an overlap or like a lighten mode on your image. So that's few things, and you could actually go even further, you know, like get those clouds right here more visible. That could be an interesting thing. I guess a great reference images is northern lights, you know, how they beam through the clouds and how clouds are affecting them, you know, so that would be like a great reference. There we go. Yeah, so just kind of work that way. Also, the second thing is what I've noticed is your characters right here, they're like more far away from from the edge of the image or from, you know, from the foreground, but they feel like they're too big. I would make them much smaller. Probably like this, you know, this kind of size. Maybe too small. Maybe like this. But also when we do that, we have to make a clear separation between what feels to me as an edge here. It's almost like an edge of a crater.
Yeah, something like that.
And then everything else is sort of like lower than that. So maybe what you could introduce here is so right here, because it's further away. So the sun is somewhere here. So I feel like this area right there could be a little darker. There we go. So there is a more clearer separation, you know. And the characters themselves, there should be more details, basically. Like you're using a photography to get a lot of interesting detail on the ground itself, you know. And you should probably use the same amount of attention to something that is really close, which is your character. So I can see you have painted details, whereas your ground has texture details. So I'll try to balance that in your image.
Yeah, that's in my to-do list.
Yeah, so, but that's fine. You're learning, and it's all about, you know, trying to figure out those things. So cool, dude. Keep going.
Thank you.
Keep making
thank
things,
you.
man. I know I'm kind of like unbalanced with how much time I spend with each of you, but I'm just, you know, I'm just reacting to what I see, so it might feel unfair, but life is not fair, man.
Oh, that's okay.
All right, Mark.
Hey,
Hey, dude.
how are you?
Someone asked, is there any chance to have other mentors on upcoming streams? Gemma, for
Um,
example.
yeah, man. I want more mentors here. It's about time and how much time each of them can commit. Uh, it's just like we just have to figure it out, like when and how and whatnot. I'm sure it's something we'll organize, whether it's very soon or later. We will have that organized. Um, I think we could get Jama, I guess. Like, I just need to talk with him. Like, one thing that I personally understand, and I guess students understand as well, is the fact that apart from doing school work, the Learn Squared and the mentorships and whatnot, these guys also have their professional work, careers and freelance and full-time studio work as well as family. So the time is really slim. So it's all about, commitment and time commitment and how much time they can find for this. And I'm sure we'll have more than just myself. Like I will say I guarantee that, but then if I don't feel comfortable saying that because if it doesn't happen, then I feel I gonna be lynched. But anyways, yeah. So that's the idea. We want to bring, like, eventually, maybe in the further future, more of the instructors or almost every instructor. That would be freaking fantastic. Like, that's the goal that I want to go forward. Get every instructor to be on those streams. But yeah, we'll see. All right, Mark. What's up, man?
How are you?
Walk me through. Tell me what's going on. How was your weekend, by the way? How was your week?
It was
How's life?
Life is great. Weekend was really good. Yeah, these three images I submitted. So this is something that I wanted to try to practice. Normally, if I do like a creature in the past, I would generally, just like start painting or sketching it out,
Mm-hmm.
and slowly, or not slowly, immediately starting to use ZBrush to quickly get ideas out, and I can play with proportions, and yeah, so it's been a fun exercise. So this image that you see here is just a creature like an alien
Mm-hmm.
that I did, and I did the whole thing. I just rendered the top portion of it.
Yeah. It's not really my expertise, so what I will try to do is maybe try to find some design aspects that could possibly be changed or added. But again, just take it with grain of salt. This is not my
Of course,
expertise, so I'll
of
just
course.
use my artistic eye to see like where this could be pushed.
Sure.
Um, I know quite a few like really good um, artists that are creature designers, but all of them are so freaking busy. Those ZBrush guys, dude, man,
Hmm.
all of them are super busy. Um, by the way, did you guys see the new Doom trailer?
No.
Just came out. I think it's gonna be cool, man. It feels like Doom. I mean, it's not
Yeah.
the most beautiful looking game out there, but I don't think it wants to be that. I think it just wants to feel like the original
But
game.
all those guns,
Yeah.
carnage.
It ends very brutal, but yeah, I'm not gonna spoil. Just go watch it. Go watch it,
Yeah, I'll check.
guys, and just if you like it, then just go and like it. Just press like. Let the developers know that you like it. uh, what I'm trying to figure out here, by the way, is like, I don't know, maybe some different proportions. I just gonna sort of like work with it in Photoshop and see what happens, I guess.
Sure.
I feel like the head is a little bit small. Maybe it could be a little larger. That could be more interesting thing to do.
Mhm.
And one thing that I feel like could be changed in your design is introducing some kind of different material to it, you know, to your character. Because right now it's just one big monochromatic sort of looking thing, you know.
Yeah.
But what if there was maybe some kind of material that is semi-translucent, you know, like maybe, you know, when you have reptiles and they have that very thin skin.
Membrane, yeah.
Yeah, the membrane. Like maybe, I mean, it's obviously, I'm just drawing it out of my head, so it's not gonna look perfect or anything, but like I would look at reference how it exactly looks. That membrane could be interesting. It could be like a slimy thing or something. I don't know. Like just generally working a little bit more with proportions. I feel like the head is becoming, it's like a little small thing that is attached to this massive body, you know?
Yeah.
So, I don't know, like I feel like this could be a little larger. And then sort of like a shape connection, I guess. Just gonna use a different color here. So there's like, you know, there's a continuity of the line. Even though there's a break in here, there's a continuity of the line. So there's like a very simple shape to it, you know? Again, kind of going back to that simplicity of shapes, I guess. Even though you're like, we're breaking in here, and this potentially would be semi-transparent, and maybe this right here could have a little more shadow. We could actually try that, see how it looks. Yeah, something like that. And maybe even this part here at the shoulder could have a little bit of that spikiness. Oops. Here we go. Again, I'm not sure if that would work, but I'm just trying to see what works. Or maybe like a, I don't know. Like I'm just thinking like if the shoulder itself would be more of a part of an armor that is protective. But I guess, I mean, this shape kind of works. I'll be overcomplicating it too much, I guess. Maybe the volume of the back here could be a little larger. I don't know.
Yeah, offset, yeah.
Just slightly. Just small changes generally, but from the rendering point of view, I guess you just have to make how to put it, more thought out decision from the lighting perspective. So you have a really strong key light, right? It almost feel like a rim light at that point, but it's a strong key that it's basically lighting the character that is coming from, you know, this direction. I feel like the overall fill light that you see, it's coming from the front of the camera, is basically lighting up the whole thing a little bit too much. That's how I feel. But if you're just if it's just about exposing details, I guess this is a better idea, just to show the details, like this render that you have here. But from a compositional point of view, I guess, you know, I mean, obviously this is too dark, maybe, of an image. Obviously there will have to be separation of the background, but you see where I'm going with it, right?
Yeah.
And maybe you could have another light that is like right here, and like a very subtle one, you know, not don't go too far, like a very subtle light here, and then this potentially brings the opportunity to get that subsurface here.
Right. Yeah, I actually rendered this in Keyshot, just a bunch of different Keyshot passes, and changed the light.
Oh, okay.
And comped it in Photoshop. So that's probably why that one, you know, the one light facing forward is probably dominant.
Yeah.
And if I would have toned that down a bit, I could have played with the overall volumes. But that's a good point.
Yeah, and I'm bringing like a stronger color here, sort of just to push it away from that realm of a monochromatic feel to it, you know?
Hmm.
Someone said this is random, but I wanted to ask this ever since I saw Maciej's Gumroads. Why do you always raise the darkest values at the very end of the painting as a last touch up? Isn't it always the goal to have a full value range?
I do it for a very simple reason that I've run into a couple of times when I work in production. It's basically a lot of people have not have monitors that are not calibrated, and if I want specifically the image to be dark, right? Then I will lift it up because someone who doesn't have a calibrated image, basically what happens is it's gonna be super dark for that person, and I got myself in a situation like, why this image is so dark? It's like, God damn it, calibrate your image, calibrate your monitor. God damn it. But generally that would be one of the reasons. And also what I like to do is sometimes you don't pay attention on what you paint in the dark areas, and what happens is someone can have a monitor that is really bright because it's not calibrated, and then the dark areas that feel like they're pitch black on your screen, and you don't really give a damn what's in those dark areas, all of a sudden have like plenty of different details going on there. I mean, I guess if I just lift the image right here, like when you see, you can start to see those brush strokes here. You know, it's like really just like, what's going on here? Like why it's not, like why it's so sketchy. I guess it's not the greatest example, but you get the idea. Basically, you start to see those brush strokes that you weren't supposed to. So what I do is, if that happens, I just gonna, lift it up like this, and then it's kind of covers them, covers those brush strokes. Even though I don't see them specifically, there might be a value change of 1 or 2 that on someone's screen is going to be really visible because that screen is specifically not that great. So I like to do that as a personal choice. You don't have to really do that. It's really a personal choice. But I've noticed that after I'm doing this, I'm not doing it. Sometimes I overdo, and I find myself after a while like, oh man, this is probably too bright, or this is probably too washed out. But sometimes I feel like it's actually in the right spot. Again, it's more of an aesthetic choice rather than anything else. So, all right, man. I think that's it. I think you get the idea here. Where I'm going with this mark, right?
Yep.
I will save this out. So all of those files will go to you guys in an email after this. Let's get a few more questions. We're actually running over time. I plan to make it for an hour. I'm gonna have to finish really soon. So let's maybe get 2 or 3 questions before we end this. And whether it's questions to me or students, just go ahead.
Yeah, so the first one says, Maciej, could you give us a little insight into your new course? It says, my main focus is environment, so I'm planning to take it.
Yeah, it's gonna be fucking dope. I don't know specifically what I could say. I'm aiming this course to be so. One of the biggest change compared to futuristic character design is the way we work. It's way we work with with Ash and how JAMA is creating courses and the new instructors. We actually take the feedback that we get from the students into consideration, and then not only try to fix the things that we found are not working perfectly in current courses, which is why, for instance, I've made this DAZ skin video, or the skin shader video, and I actually have a laundry list of things that I'll be periodically adding to a course that's out there. So for instance, if you bought the course and you get the content a few months from now or a month from now, you get another video, and it's just gonna be part of the course that you already paid for. So that's how it works for now. And we would just want to completely like improve the course over time. But also we learn new things, and one of the things I've learned is really honest opinions from the students. Is just I made too many assumptions in terms of difficulty, and for some things that I felt were easy were actually pretty difficult to do, especially introducing so much software and whatnot. So that's one of the things that that I wanted to work in my new course. And the way it's designed is everything is explained. So there's no everything I talk about is explained, and there's no aspects of it that you might be like, what? Like, where did I miss that step? Where is this? Where is that coming from? Right? So when I talk about lighting, I explain the lighting first. When I talk about colors, I explain the colors first. When I talk about composition, I give you examples of compositions first. So all those things have sort of like a base from which you go to that base, and then you apply it to your actual lesson. From point of homework, for instance, if you're just starting, I know Andrew is, punching my face for saying that if you're a beginner. No, don't say it's beginner. It's offensive. I guess it's a type of microaggression. But anyways, if you're a beginner or a person that is just starting and wants to improve and learn and be better at it, all those things that you need to know are going to be there. And if there are going to be things that are missing, if you let me know, hey man, you explained perspective, but I'm missing this and that. That's something I will note and try to do, try to add, Triggered. Damn.
Someone said, "Is there a 3D?"
Uh,
Yeah.
There is at the end, but not as heavy as the futuristic character design. That was a big mistake for me, because it's an intro to environment painting. So I don't want to overwhelm people with the idea that you need to know a lot of software and work with it. It's important. I always gonna be at the forefront of telling you learn every software you can, because software is changing so much. There's so much new stuff coming out that is just really essential to know what's out there. But I'm also gonna say what I've learned over the decade of working in film and games is the fact that the foundation is really important. So I want to start there. I want to, if you're learning, you're going to learn foundation. If you already work, you're going to remind yourself of foundation. And there are places where it was really challenging for me even to do some of the lessons, Like I'm doing it like, damn, this is really hard. And I know why, because when you're in the environment of studio work, where everything has to be quick for yesterday. Like we need those 10 images for yesterday. And when you are in that environment, you work in a very specific pace and very specific way, and you only limit yourself to tools that make sense for that specific task. And you tend to forget a lot of things when it comes to your skills of painting become rusty, your skills of perspective become rusty, and all those things become rustier and rustier, and eventually you forget how to paint. And I share this experience with many artists. Like they get like, damn man, I haven't been doing this for so long, I forgot how to do it. So it's a good reminder, like, take a step away and remind yourself that you can work that way. And it will actually improve your eye. You will notice maybe something new out of it. You're like, hey, I haven't felt about colors or using colors that way, or working with perspective that way. So that's like more of an overview. There's a lot of different things to talk about here, but I don't want to spend like another hour sort of going through and explaining everything. It's just too much.
Someone said, "I will do your professional mentorship next term. Any advice on how to prepare for the course?"
Paint a lot. yeah, I guess the more practice you have beforehand is the better. Like whether it's practicing perspective or practicing film frames, it's just hard to say because in order for me to tell you do exactly this to be prepared, that would be a bad idea because you should because first of all, I don't know your work. I don't know what's your focus. I don't know what's your personal perspective on how you apply your work or how you apply your skills to your work. How you manage your own time, how much time you have during the week. It's just there's so many variables that if I tell you this is a recipe and go with it, I might do a disservice. I really don't want to do that. I guess the best advice is just practice a lot. If you want to do environments for video games, then practice perspective, then practice color and light, then play games, but not just to play and have fun, but also look at the environment and figure out or try to sort of decipher how this environment is built. Where do you see repeatable textures? All those things will matter in the long run because they're going to be important in very technical aspects. But from just like environment work, I guess foundation, I think any kind of foundation practice that you do is never going to be wasted ever. So I guess that would be a best advice. Just kind of do the foundation practice, whatever that is, whether it's color lighting or film frame studies or master painter studies, anything like that. So, all right, let's get one more question.
Yeah, the last question says, how big is your reference library now? How important is it for your work? If you lost all of it, would your work suffer for a bit? And also, how much of your reference library is from the internet, and how much is it your own photos?
I'll tell you a dirty secret of working in the industry. Everyone is using photos, and everyone is Googling photos, most of them. I try to use as much of my personal photos as I can, but because I work so much, I don't have time to travel a lot. So I have to use different sources as well, whether it's sources of royalty-free photos, which tend to be higher quality, or sources of, Gumroad. Like there's a lot of artists that have been releasing really fucking amazing packages of Gumroad, their trip photos and whatnot. All those things are great. But sometimes you just like, you're on a job and a director tells you do this and you cannot find a photo, but the only thing you can find is something on Google, then that's probably what you're gonna go with. I specifically avoid doing any work with other artists' work. I feel like that's cheating. No, it's not cheating. It's just like I avoid doing that because there's already a design in that work, and if someone asks me, hey, fucking change this image, then I'm gonna say no. Unless, again, if you're in the film environment, for instance, or in video games, and let's say your colleague does a concept work and he's on the same team, and you have to do the fixes, you will do the fixes. That's exactly how it works in the film because it's not the copyright belongs to the company that is employing you. So that's pretty much it. When you use references, most of the stuff you're using is, when I look at stuff like a texture for a grass or a texture for a metal or something like that. I rarely ever want to take a full design, if at all. Like I want to design things in the first place. But when you take the just bits of textures, it's a derivative work. There's just so much things you're changing. You're not taking the essence of the image. You're taking bits that are only relevant to what you do and have very little to do with the photography itself. So if you approach it that way, then you should be fine. When it comes to losing references, I don't really care that much. I usually try to look for references per project. because I rarely ever find myself using the same reference twice, you know? So I don't know. There's obviously textures that I will reuse. And mostly these days, majority of the work I do is 3D. So that's another different story to it. So cool. All right, let's wrap it up. I have to really finish this this stream right now. There's gonna be more, so don't cry. There's gonna be more. I'll try to spend more time. And thanks for coming, guys. Especially thanks for all my professional students that came up here and spent time with me here and exposed themselves to reality of Twitch and the internet. So I'll talk to you guys next time, and everyone else who decided to be here on the Twitch. Thanks for watching live. It's going to be available right after the stream ends, and we're also going to upload it to YouTube. So more of the links to follow. All right, peace.
Later.
See you guys.
Peace. Thank you.
See you.